Good evening and welcome to Political Undertones. I'm your host, Tom Lucas. I'm here with presidential candidate Charles Demorep. A little background on Mr. Demorep. He was born and raised in Brookhaven, Indiana, home of the world's largest ball of string. His father was the mayor there for many years and served his country with distinction in the armed forces. His mother works as a day trader, and with her spare time she volunteers at Neil Armstrong Elementary School, where she works with special needs children. Mr. Demorep, welcome to our program.
Well, thank you for having me here in your fine city.
Let's get started, shall we? My first question for you deals with the economy. Given our current economic situation and how it's also linked to the global marketplace, tell me, Mr. Demorep, how would your administration deal with this current crisis?
Well, let's just jump right into it then. Our current crisis is one that needs to be investigated. I personally would oversee a blue ribbon committee to investigate this situation. We need to find out how something like this can happen, why this did happen, and to implement policies and regulations to prevent this from ever happening again. I think it's time for average Americans to say no more to the way things are. America is hungry for and deserves real change, and that's something we can all get behind.
Fascinating. With the state of our environment being what it is, we have storms of greater frequency and strength, flooding throughout many regions of our nation, food shortages globally, and we're even seeing drastic changes in our environment right before our eyes. Mr. Demorep, can this be linked to global warming, or is this just a natural cycle that we're going through?
If you're asking me, does the environment run through cycles of hot and cool? Well, I have to say yes. If you're asking me, is man responsible for these effects, then I would say we need more investigation. This is something that could very well change our very way of life as we know it. The worst thing we could do is rush into this with a Chicken Little attitude. I think we need to slow our process and look for real answers to these very real questions before we act and make any and all changes that we need to make.
Let's move on to the war on terror, if we can. We're spending billions of dollars a month on a war that much of the country is now very tired of. We've seen no real terror threat to our homeland since September 11th of 2001. Our credibility around the world is at an all-time low. How would your administration fix this problem?
We need to take a hard look at the current policies in place. After that, we need to evaluate these policies. Are they working? Are they not working? We need to encourage the policies of success and remove the policies of failure. What we need is true leadership on this issue. What I plan to do is evaluate each policy and remove those that are not working while continuing those that do work. I believe America deserves that much, at the very least.
Healthcare. Healthcare seems to be a big issue for most of us in this nation. Many elderly are having to decide whether to purchase medications or food. Millions of children are without health care. Many families have to decide whether to buy gasoline or insurance. How would you solve this health care crunch?
We need to fix this health care crisis. It has gotten way out of hand. Families are spending more on the essentials of daily survival, and insurance is falling by the wayside. We owe it to our children to solve this problem. I think most Americans would agree with me when I say children are our future. Let them grow and let them lead the way.
Mr. Demorep, given our current state of affairs globally, we're speaking, how everything is connected. What happens in the Asian markets affects the U.S. markets. What happens in one place can have a profound effect on us here at home. The policies of foreign leaders have far-reaching effects, not just with their boundaries, but outside their borders. We've seen recently, with the tainted milk from China spreading across many nations, this is not limited to one incident, but has far-reaching effects on the economies of all societies all over the world. How is your administration prepared to handle such issues as they arise for all of us?
Well, that is the real question now, isn't it?
I've got to say, Mr. Demorep, I'm getting a little frustrated here. I've asked you about several key issues, and you simply delivered vagaries. Do you have a definitive answer to anything?
Our current society, a definitive answer could be to the detriment of those questioning the situation. What we need is discussion. What we need is truth. And truth comes in many forms. And to simply label these answers as right or wrong would be to limit the possibilities that stand outside of our current understanding.
Well, where do you stand on gay marriage? What about the polar bears? Is there a Santa Claus?
Oh boy, you big city fat cats really can pile it high, can't you? Let me just say this about that. We should be extending all rights to all portions of our population. We must do this at the same time while preserving the rights of everyone. Gay marriage is an issue for the church, not the state. Dispensation of rights should fall to the state and not the church. As for Santa Claus, I believe we need to investigate. We need to get to the bottom of this issue. I propose a fact-finding mission to the North Pole. We need to better understand his business model, determine if it is economically stable. The last thing we need is another high-dollar bailout of an American institution.
Well, I can see I'm not getting very far with you. How about this one? Have you now or ever been a member of the Communist Party?
A member? No.
Well, here's a question you can't possibly be vague about. What's the weather like right now, outside?
Well, weather's a difficult thing to truly understand. I mean, weather, as you call it, is really nothing more than the culmination of statistical analysis. While one may say partly cloudy, another may determine it is in fact partly sunny. What we need are more rigid standards in dealing with the weather. We need to hold congressional hearings to determine the factual basis for the bias in the weather, and then determine a plan that best limits or even curtails these activities to being within reasonable limits.
Hey, well, fortunately, we're out of time. I'm Tom Lucas, and this has been Political Undertones.